I'm now going to introduce Andrew. He's going to share for 10-15 minutes on step one.
Thanks. My name's Andrew Manadi.
Hi, Andrew.
It's really good to be sharing at the London Convention, and it's really good to be sharing on step one. And you know, when I come into the fellowship, when I got a sponsor. My sponsor turned around and said to me, he said, "You've already worked step one before you got here." He said, "But what I want you to do," he said, "I want you to write some examples and sort of keep it as a reference book for yourself. So, you know, if you ever think you want to go back out there, you can read that, you know, and that'll tell you where you come from, you know." And I'm sure what happened to me was, you know, he also turned around and he said to me, you know, "You need to do a solid step one," he said, "because if you ain't got a solid step one," he said, "you know, the rest of the steps are going to start to wobble." And that's what I done, you know. I sort of lived the addict's dream of controlled using, you know. I suffered from a mental obsession, you know, physical compulsion, and, you know, I thought I could control my using. I tried it all the way through my using, you know. I'd have the bag of gear, you know, and I would try and sort of space it out, you know, until I was next get my money. When I got paid, try to get it to last over the weekend, and I always fell short. I always come up short. I never got to what I planned to do. You know, it was if I turned around and said to myself, "I'm going to buy this amount on a Friday," you know, and I ain't going to get no money till Monday till I get back to work and get a sub off him, so I'm going to have to make this last. You know, by Saturday morning, I'm running around looking for more gear. Or I'm looking for methadone. I'm looking for anything to change the way I'm feeling, because, you know, I've run out. You know, I've got the bag and I've used it and it's all gone. You know, and that was the pattern, you know, all my using. You know, I can remember sort of not wanting to wake up in the morning clucking, you know, and having my last hit at night, you know, and I'm trying to save one for the morning. And where I was living at the end of my using especially, you know, I used to have to hide that one underneath my pillow because I didn't trust nobody around me. You know, it'd get taken. And I'd have the last one, I'd make one for the morning, and as the night would sort of go on, you know, I'd start tossing, I'd start turning, and this hip would start talking to me. You know, they'd be telling me, you know, "You don't need to wait till the morning, let's have it now." You know, and I used to try and fight it. You know, no, I got to keep it somewhere. I don't want to wake up clucking. I'm always waking up clucking. You know, I don't want to go out. I ain't got no money for the morning. I don't want to go out grafting. That it would continually be talking to me. You know, it'd even try and get me to cut a deal with it. Well, why didn't he do half of me? You know, let's have half now and keep half of me until the morning. And you know, I'd convince myself. I'd eventually convince myself. I'd do it. You know, I wouldn't do half. Once it was out, it was over. I'd do it. And then I suppose I was able to fall asleep there. And that little journey into the sleep, when the obsession sort of faded away, the drug worked. For a little half hour or an hour, just before I nodded off, because I'd done all the gear, I had nothing left. The obsession sort of died down. The drug worked. I fell asleep. And then I woke up clucking. You know, and it was the same thing all over again. You know, I can remember that I had a friend once, and he used to drive me sort of crazy. We'd buy a bag of coke between us. And I'd have mine, I'd start snorting it, I'd continue snorting it, I'd be washing my teeth with it, I'd be licking the wrap, I'd eventually end up with this all I'd have left is that wrap rolled up, stuck in my mouth, chewing it, twiddling my fingers like, what am I going to do next? And my friend would be there and he'd be like, 2 lines. He'd put it in his pocket and say, I'm going to keep some for tomorrow. And I used to honestly think, hang on a minute, is there something wrong with you? Do you want to talk about it? There's something going on, Bill. How can you do that, for starters? And it used to drive me crazy. I used to talk about him to my other friends. Man, I got to keep away from him. There's something totally off-key about that guy. And he used to go home. He used to actually go home with the drug. But my head then would obsess about his drug. So when I go home, I'd be obsessing about the wrap in his pocket. And I'd be ringing him. Do you know that? Could you sort us? No, I can't. Why? You've got enough. I watched you last night. You only took 2 lines. There's plenty left. Sort us out. No, I can't. And I tried to go. I go to any lengths because this obsession wouldn't go anywhere. It weren't going anywhere. I'd phone him up. I'd go, so and so. He's been busted, man. If I was you, I'd get all the drugs out of your house. And by the way, I'm going down to the pub. If you want to meet me down there, I'll be there. And he did come down to the pub, but he never brought his drugs with him. I just couldn't understand how people done it. But my denial sort of turned around and told me that I could do it. If he can do it, I can do it. And I sort of went to lengths to try and do that. Well, that guy done. That guy today is a very successful businessman. And I thought he was really off-key. Because he didn't use like me. And I thought he was pretty good. I thought I was a pretty damn good user. And, my experience, with that compulsion as well. I've seen myself in Wales. I've seen myself in Wales with £100. £100 in my pocket, right? There's no gear around. I phone up someone in London, there's gear there. It's going to cost me 60 quid to get to London. I'm working in the morning, so I've got to get to London and back, and that's all I'm going to get when I get there is half a gram. I've got to go. I'm knocking on everyone's door. I'll pay for the petrol. Will you take me up? To London and back. Are you real? Yeah. What are you going up there for? Oh, you don't need to know. I just got to be there. Business. My life depends on this shit. Can you take me in? And people would go out their way and they'd take me in. I'd get up there. I'd get the drug. Before I got back in, the car's gone. I'm on the way back home and I'm like, what did I do that for? What did I do? I'm not even going back with anything. And that was a story with me. And that compulsion as well, it took me some dark areas as well. There was an auntie who lived next door to my mother, and she brought me up all my life, with my mother, and she was very close to me, she was very dear to me, and she passed away quite a few years ago, and I can remember my mother on the day of the funeral. My mother knew I was off the rails now. She knew I was going to any lengths. She knew there was things really wrong in my life. I'd broken up with my partner, and there was children involved, and one thing she turned around and said to me in the morning, she said, whatever you do, make sure you turn up for this funeral. Above anything else, she said, just be there for me, please be there for me. And I had to go out because, I needed to score. I couldn't, I woke up, I was sick. The funeral was 10:30. My gyro wasn't coming until 9 o'clock, right? And I had to go and cash the gyro. I had to travel a couple of miles. I had to get back, and it was like, time was against me. And I gets up to the dealer's house, and the drugs ain't there. And I couldn't come back to the funeral until the drugs arrived. And when the drugs finally arrived, she'd been buried. And I walked back, I walked into that room, and my mother's face, she just looked at me, and she just, with disgust. I totally let her down. You know, I destroyed her that day. She had all of the family around her, and she knew what they were talking about. Where is he? You know, that lady took care of him all his life, and he can't even make it for a funeral. You know, but the disease had had me in such a grip that I was in such denial that I kidded myself on the way home that I couldn't get home. You know, I couldn't, it wasn't possible for me to get home. And I come up with all excuses. I justified them, and I believed them. My mother didn't believe them, but I believed them. And I could walk away with that without the guilt and shame. I left it with her. You know, and I was a long, long pattern throughout my life. And, you know, that's just one part of step one for me. You know, I can go into the second part of step one, where my life was totally unmanageable, and my life was totally unmanageable. You know, when I go back, and this starts from the mid-80s, you know, sharing a flat in Peckham, you know, not paying bills, you know, getting cut off on the electric and the gas, you know, putting the meters up on the wall ourselves. You know, actually, I haven't got a clue what we're doing, but we got live, you know, live wires, yeah, and we are just open, we're getting some electric on, and we'll go to any lengths to try this. But is this one supposed to win? It doesn't matter. Try it. Hang on a minute. Let me just stand back while you do it. You know what I mean? And we put it on. You know, I've seen us cooking a Sunday dinner on electric fire because the gas ain't on. We ain't got the cooker. You know, we weren't paying bills. We weren't turning up for life. At the end of my using, I was eating out of skips around the back of Tesco's in Portobello Road. I was going in the skip on a daily basis for food to eat. You know, and we live in a modern industrialised society, and I couldn't even feed myself. That's what it came down to. I didn't have the ability to feed myself. A 36-year-old man who had a trade, you know, and he was good at his trade as well, couldn't even feed himself, and had to go onto the streets and ask people for money just to feed a drug that had totally taken over his life, or my life I should say. You know, but sometimes I don't feel that person, because that person I really feel sorry for. That guy who was sitting on the street. You know, he lost his way. You know, and I had to admit that I was powerless. And admittance is just letting in. That's all it is, letting in. And when I done that, I opened the doors to recovery, and it tells me that in the basic text. You know, and once I done that and I surrendered to it, do you know what? For the first time, there was a sigh of relief. Wow. Finally I might get some help here. I know I really need this help because physically I'm killing myself. You know, and I'm really taking myself to the grave really quick. You know, I was in a meeting the other night, and it was a Step 8 meeting, and in the reading it turned around and said, I thought I was a victim of my disease, so how could I possibly accept that I'd harmed others? I couldn't see that in other people. But I'd harmed a lot of people. But my disease had a complete control over me. You know, and right up until that point where I surrendered, I thought I still lived that dream, you know, of controlled using. And I couldn't get there. You know, I just finished off, and I'll finish off with this, that the one thing that was turning around for me was I was able to turn around and say, do you know what, I'll go to any lengths to stay clean. And by doing that, my life has become manageable. in a sense where it's not totally unmanageable. Thanks for letting me share, and I'll leave it there.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm now going to introduce Zena, who's going to share on step 2 for 10, 15 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Zena, I'm an addict.
Zena.
I'll start with, it's a real honour to be sat up here, to be sharing on step 2 at the convention. I don't like sitting here, I don't like sharing, but it's not about me, it's about the newcomer, it's about giving back, so that's why I'm sat here. Right, step 2. We came to believe in a power greater than ourselves that could restore us to sanity. I went to a day program and I'd done my steps 1, 2 and 3 there, and I was 4.5 years in recovery. I was in and out. Then I went to this day program and I'd done my steps 1, 2 and 3. When I surrendered in the first step, I was left with a great need to recover, and that was the step 2. I needed to fill that void, that irritable, restless, discontent. And how I came to believe, it was an ongoing process. I moved from London to Taunton. I studied for 6 years and I was working part-time. I had steps 1, 2 and 3 under my belt. I didn't work the rest of the steps. I listened to other recovering addicts share their experience, strength and hope around coming to believe. When I approached this step, I needed willingness on to be very open-minded, because the word God, I found that quite difficult. But when people were saying higher power and on a spiritual basis, I could work with that. Like I said, I was at college and I was working, and by the grace of God, I stayed clean for 6 years. When I finished college and came back to London, I was starting to feel that irritable, restless and discontent would creep up in me, because I didn't have it, I was in a 12-step fellowship but not working the 12 steps. That's insanity. I didn't see that at the time. I see it now. Sanity for me is phoning my sponsor, working the 12 steps, sharing my experience, asking for help. When I did come back to London, I said to myself, I need to work this program. For 10 years I didn't. So, I went to a meeting and I got myself a sponsor. I got these suggestions, which was praying, get down on my knees, ring my sponsor, find a home group, ring newcomers, read literature. And from having steps 1, 2 and 3 for 6 years to having 12 steps for a year, my life has changed around, believing in a power greater than me that could restore me to sanity. I'm very nervous. I'm going to say it anyway. I'm new to sharing. I find it quite difficult. I need to take myself out of the situation, myself out of the equation. I'm not religious by any means. You know, my higher power is a loving, caring, compassionate person, God, manager, whatever you want to call it. He doesn't test me. I know just before Christmas I lost my dad. I had the 12 steps behind me. And when I came back, I was really struggling. I'd lost my higher power, lack of faith. And I felt like I'd gone back right to the very beginning of my recovery. I couldn't sit with myself, didn't want to be with myself. There was, you know, a lot of self-pity in there. There was also grievance, but there was a lot of self-pity. And when I have lack of power, lack of God, lack of faith, I need to step up my program, and that's what I've done. I stepped up my program by taking myself out of the equation and thinking of other people. And when I have lack of faith, I just need to step up my program. I'm going to refer to some of my notes because my willingness came about because I was so tired of repeating the same mistakes and expecting different results. And I'd done that for many years. I'm really drying up here. I'm going to have to leave it here. Just thank you.
Thank you, Zena. Thank you, Andrew. And thank you. And the meeting is now open for sharing. And the last 10 minutes.